Good afternoon. Thank you, everyone, for joining us this afternoon. Last year, the Latin Club invited all its members for a meeting so that we could propose speakers for the third Latin Entrepreneurship Forum. They told us to think about business leaders from our countries that would be a great fit for this event. In that moment, there was one person that came into the top of my mind. From the Dominican Republic, I believe there is no better example of successful and a real entrepreneur than the speaker we're about to hear. He started working from a very young age, and when he was only 15 years old, he was left for 3 months with the responsibility of running the family business. He learned firsthand from his father what it takes to grow a company. Today, what originally started like a small store in Santo Domingo is now a successful enterprise that consolidates companies spanning numerous industries such as retail, import and export, agriculture, mass media, financial services, construction supplies, so many different industries, right? Our closing keynote speaker has been recognized numerous times, not only by the Dominican Republic, but also by France, China, Taiwan, and the monarchy of Spain. It is my pleasure to introduce you to the largest aggregate employer and one of the most important businessmen from the Dominican Republic, the President and CEO of Grupo Corripio, Mr. José Luis Corripio.
Good afternoon, everybody here. Thanks for attending my words. I will try to do my best. When I was informed about the possibility of have the honor to be here with you, my first intention was to say no. And no, for two simple reasons, because everything I don't say just by an impulse, but just by something that motivates it. Number one, I do not dominate the English language so well, and I was afraid, and I still am afraid, of not being able to make myself clearly understood. Anyway, any questions, if I miss some words, I will be able to clarify whenever you want. And also, in addition to the knowledge of the language, I see another disadvantage. You know more than myself about the economics and the finance that you studied, and you have studied more than myself. After that two negative points, I made another analysis, and I said, well, I have two advantages in the other side. Number one is that I am the older people, probably the oldest one in this room. I have 77 years old. And probably in this room, I am the oldest in the business activity because I have 62 years in business. I was declared mayor of age at 15 when my father and mother left for a trip for 3 months, and I had to start dealing with a business that was a medium-sized business in the Dominican Republic. Therefore, that is one of the two advantages I have to be here now. The other advantage is, if I disappoint you, you have to blame Esperanza, that is the responsible person for me to be here with you. Therefore, the credits are for me, the debts are for her. I have been in business 62 years, and I am representing 94 years of activity of our family. We have 2 years more than Babson University in the group. We have been dealing every day for 3 generations. We have the opportunity to break the bad impression of 3 continuous generations working continuously without changing the method of doing business. Our family was established in the Dominican Republic in 1917, and from that time, when my father arrived with 13 years old, until the 97 years that he died at 97 years, the only thing he did, in addition to the family attention and to his being a good father and a good grandfather, etc., and good spouse, good husband, was work. And we have followed the same thing all the time. We have been working every day. We row, and we row, and from time to time we receive a good wind that helps us to advance, but always rowing. Do you understand what is rowing, no? No? Okay, remando. Okay. In 62 years, I have seen all the aspects of business in variety and in several phases that the business are represented in life. But the real life, not only the theoretical life. And almost all problems that I have or may have in business since many years ago are repeated problems, because I have seen everything in 62 years of business and the change of the world. The question is that the world has changed very much, and the only lesson that I did not know was the crisis, the big crisis that we have, the global crisis. And I have learned my last lesson recently, because I was not alive in 1929, of course, with the other big crisis of the world. And before going to the particular recommendations I am trying to give you as students for the life in business, I will make my personal opinions about the crisis. First of all, I have my own feeling that the crisis are the mismanagement of the good times. Always a crisis in any part and in the world is anticipated by good times. And that is one of the things that I recommend always in business, in families, and in the countries, to be preventing the bad times, because for good times you have not to be prepared, only for bad times. And sometimes I think that the question is that the economists, the people who study the economist or finance, have not read or do not read the first lesson of economy that was given to the world, at least by written constants, evidence of written evidence. And that is the Old Testament. It's very simple, because solutions are simple. When solutions are complicated, then you have two problems: the problem itself and the solution in the other hand. And then you have a simple solution in the Old Testament. If you read it, you will find that many thousand years ago, the Pharaoh in Egypt had a dream that Jose explained to him. He had a dream of 7 years of fat cows and 7 years of thin cows, hungry cows. And there starts the reason of the crisis. That is the core of the crisis. It is very hard to administrate the abundance because restriction is administrated by himself. But the abundance is never administrated well because it's very hard to use the prudence when you have abundance. And that is one of the key points that I want you to understand for your future, to avoid failures. At the same time, which is the reason, I will try to be brief because I want to tell you many things in short time. What happened in the global crisis recently? Well, it's very simple. No matter what they say, there was a growth in abundance of production of everything in the world. The industry is easier to have and to amplify the production of any item, and you cannot at the same time amplify the capacity of consumption of the people all over the world at the same time that you establish new factories for the same products. Then what happened? The global companies and the big financial companies established a method to create the virtual sensation of richness among the people for buying. Then they invented, which is very helpful of course, the credit cards. Then you start making consumption without money, at least present money. After that, then came the cars to be financed, and then the houses to be financed, etc., in advance. And the real thing is that the people was not able, with his own money, to support such kind of credit in advance of their income. And the crisis, sooner or later, was obvious that may happen due to that reason. And the question is that there was a leg that was bigger than the other, and the production leg was bigger, and then the capacity of consumption was more virtual than real. And then the economy and the society were walking the wrong way. Now, after these main concepts, I want to tell you something about the crisis itself is something important, is more damage, provokes more damage in the developed countries than in underdeveloped countries. For example, in the Dominican Republic, the crisis was a mild crisis. Here it was a bigger crisis in Europe also, and in other places. Which is the simple answer? It's much more dangerous to be thrown from the 10th floor of a building than from the 2nd floor. Because when you have a good economy, then the reaction when coming down is bigger than when you pass from the 2nd to the 1st floor and not from the 10th floor to the 1st floor. In our group of companies, we have had the work as the key point of our honest work, let me say, as the key of our development and our progression. Nowadays, it is very hard to explain that we worked for decades, almost 17 to 18 hours a day, in 3 shifts during a day. And I was committed to study at the same time by night. And that helps you very much to develop the capacity of progress. And the need of having the desire to progress of a person, of a group of persons, is the key point of a development of a country. When a country is formed by many people who want to progress, that means that the country will progress. I celebrate that people want to progress, and that is something that helps the society as a whole. But I want to emphasize, because in these times of the world, there is a sense that progressing is by any means. And I am just talking about legal and normal and meritorial methods of progress. The crises are also a good opportunity to progress. You will remember that probably 2 years ago, by June, was the best time to invest in the United States, when the Dow Jones was at 7,500 more or less. Because the crisis brings its own benefit for people who are prepared to afford it, and for countries who are prepared to afford it. Because in business, as well as in finance, when there are several prospects that are good, and a few of them that are bad pronostics, I assure you that always in business and in any place, in finance or in business, the worst things happen first and surely than the good things that you have to push constantly to make them happen. Otherwise, you are mistaken waiting passively with the good things. Because business itself is not a business. Business is a risk. And some people think that doing a business, you are doing business. It's not exactly. In my opinion, the business has a vocation, a tendency to the bankruptcy. The natural tendency of any business, no matter whatever he is, the tendency is the bankruptcy. And when a business is not going into bankruptcy, it's because the people who manage the business do not allow them or the business to go to bankruptcy. It's a hard work to avoid that. No matter how good is the business, but the business has a tendency to failure. And that is something that is important to bear in mind for those young people who want to enter into business. We have practiced these opinions that I am expressing you traditionally for 94 years, as I mentioned before. And I am talking of the success in business because I think that most of the people here want this financial success. If I was talking to philosophers or to literal people in literature that want to have the Nobel Prize, probably what I am telling is not so important. But I am assuming that the people here want to know how the business success can be achieved. Another thing that I recommend to young people is that never think that situations are static. The life itself is not a photo. The life itself is a movie, all in constant evolution. What is good today may not be good tomorrow. And at the same time, I want to tell something to you that you may not be thinking, and is that old-fashioned styles of doing business is not bad at all, and good new things are not also good at all by themselves. At least the past has the opportunity to create the good things of today. Therefore, something good happened in the past. Another, I am going different things one by one because I don't want to spend the hour in one point. The reality in business as well as in life is something, and the theoretical supposition of how things will happen could be many. But bear in mind that reality only happens in one way, not in 10 ways that could be before it happens. Therefore, the best thing is to be very clear in the analysis and on the understanding of business, because it's important to match the reality, or to be as near as possible of what will happen in the real life of business. At the same time, I encourage you all to educate, to improve your knowledge, to take advantage of Babson College opportunity, which not everybody in the life has this opportunity as students of Babson has. But the student, a good student, cannot rely only in his knowledge for have success in business. There are things that are before the knowledge. Are things that is the perseverance, the hard working, and the constant without becoming tired. Because when you become tired, you forget everything and you lose. And whenever you cannot find the good things of a business because you have strong competitors, there is only one thing that can help you if you have done everything well. And you know what it is? Not to be tired, and let the competitor to be tired before you. Because I have the experience in many businesses that were not so successful in the beginning, and they become successful because my competitor become tired after being tired, of course, of competing with me. And then the business starts to become a good business. The key of our family and the development is the reinvestment in business that we have. We invest almost that we don't need to live in the business and the amplification of the group. We now have about 11,000 employees, and in Dominican Republic that is quite a lot. And that is because we have invested our own benefits in our own business. And that is something important, because you have to identify with your business and with your country, because always you don't have good times, but you have to support bad time, crisis, and continue in the same direction. Sometimes people think that luck is the key point for success. Well, that may be sure, especially if you ask, if you want to know if there is luck, good luck, ask to somebody that has had bad luck before. He will say that his competitor had good luck and he has bad luck. But I may say something. Maybe the good luck always helps, because you never have your harvest your own efforts. Sometimes you have things that you receive free from life and from circumstances. But in case there is the good luck happens to pass through your door, that is my opinion, at 5 a.m. in the morning. And if you are sleeping, you will never have good luck. You have to be active, you have to be persistent, and you have to work hard. Another key point on us is in our group is that when a dollar comes in our business, what we think, you know what it is? 10 cents. We have received 10 cents instead of a dollar. We think it is 10 cents. But when we have to spend $1, we think that we are spending $10. Therefore, the measure of things coming, we diminish it. When we go out the money, we put 10 times higher in order to avoid unnecessary expenses. Because the life, in my opinion, is completely full of unnecessary expenses. And it is very hard to have austerity in the abundance, as I said before. But that is very important. And people who have accommodate economical situation, or families who have economical situation good, don't rely that if they don't have these necessary type of sacrifices and austerity, they will soon or later lose their position in the life or in the first places. And probably those people that today are poor are the future people that will be rich in the future, because they have to sacrifice themselves, they have to make efforts, and they probably will be rich because they have the training of how to work and how to obtain this success, while abundance have a conspiracy against it. I always say that the society is like those trees that put every year a new layer of bark. It is clear what I am saying? A new layer of bark, the corteza, la corteza. See, a new layer of bark, because the old bark is full of parasites and fungus. And then the society cleans himself, throwing away that type of people. And then the new layer of bark of the tree is the new one that probably will repeat the same story as the other layer. But anyway, it's a new layer because it put away the previous one. Another thing that I recommend you is, no matter when you enter into a business, and I have practiced that many times with quite a big success, no matter how the studies of a business are good, if your thinking, your presentimiento, how do you say presentimiento? Your feeling, and you don't have the feeling that it's a good business, don't make it. Your feeling will have the reason against the numbers. You have to have both things together, that and the other. The studies of the business, the possibilities, and your feeling. Otherwise, you will be probably thinking that you made a big mistake if that does not match. Once I have in Santo Domingo a conference with some economists of the Financial Times, and I had to speak, and they talk many things about the definition of the capital. What is the capital? And they had many good definitions of the capital. And when they asked me, I had, as always, a simple reason, a simple reply. And I want you to tell it to everybody here. In my opinion, capital is the part not spent of what you have earned. That's all. There is no capital on what you have spent before. That is the reason that you have to bear in mind always in the business, because what you have spent, as said before, the Secretary of Finance in Mexico here, I heard that he said that there was two ways of spending money, this way and the other way. That's right, I agree with him. Many people nowadays don't talk about millions like nothing. 1 million is 1 million. That is very important for you to know. Once I wrote in one of our newspapers an editorial saying what was a million, because the society, even having or not a million, they say that nothing, a million, now a billion is almost nothing, and a trillion is almost nothing, because you heard in the newspaper, you read in the newspapers every day about such big quantities. But 1 million, I read in a book here made here in the States, that 1 million of bills of $1, put one above the other, were more than 60 meters of height. If you think that, you will know what is a million of anything, and you will give importance, because when you don't have the first million is very important, because, and this is an advice, the price of things that you get is not the comparison of what they worth. The value of things, real value, is how much cost you to earn the money to buy such things. For a millionaire to spend $100,000 may be nothing. But if you have to work 1 year to earn or save what, $100,000 is a lot. The effort involved in what you are spending is really the cost of things and not the numerical value. Things that I have talked to you have for me and our family proved to be correct and exact. However, there are two ways of discovering things in the life and in business. The life is crowded of walls and of passes to go through, or doors to go through. You will see the walls in one of these two ways. With your eyes, and then you get the door, or with your head, and then you have a stroke, and then you find later the door. Try to avoid this way and use your eyes to avoid in advance problems. For you that are young, the future is something that old people say to the young. The future is yours, but the future is today. You make the future today or yesterday. And it's important not to be late in the future. One of the great advantages is for anybody, any young girl or boy, to decide what he will do with his life in the future. And if it takes too much time to decide that, it's a problem. Because when he decides, his competitors will be far away above him. And prompt decisions of what to do with the life is very, very important. Another thing is that the budgets, which is one of the things that all the companies take clear before starting a year, it's important to tell you that the only thing that you control are the expenses and not the incomes, just to be sure and to monitor always, as we try to do every month, to adjust things. When you want to have good people working with you, and that is my experience in many decades, we had the first 1,000 people working with us were stars. Why they were stars? Because we, my father, the chief people of the group, myself, looked at the face of everybody that was entering to work with us. And we had a precise, very accurate impression of who was going to work with us. Now we can no longer do that, and we have psychometrics, psychological tests, etc. And we cannot say that everybody is an excellent or a star in a business. And you have to have an average of people working with you, some better, some middle, and some not so good, let me say. But I remember that when that happened 40 years ago, and somebody was going to apply a job, I always take in consideration two things that were not of the curriculum. When they enter into my office, if they enter this way, rejected. And the one that was speaking was as if he was tired, rejected also, no matter what say the curriculum, because the persons have, every person has to have a light inside of energy to perform well his job. It's very, very important that, because the energy you cannot accumulate. You never accumulate. The worst day always is Monday in a company. People are tired of the rest of the weekend. And that means that energy cannot be accumulated. The energy is produced upon demand. I run almost every day about 6-7 miles. And the worst time is the first 10 minutes. After you start demanding energy, then you start doing it well, and then you enjoy. And that happens with work. I was coaxionated to work by my father and my mother. I am very grateful for that, because I was coaxionated until I was enjoying working. And in the time you enjoy what you do or your work, you stop working. You start enjoying, because you enjoy what you are doing. And that is something very, very important, because it's a torture to be doing all the life what you don't want to do. And enjoying what you do is the best way of not having to work hard. There are many things that I can tell you, but we're ready? And we are almost ending, and for the next time I will complete many things, but remember something. I have tell you many things I have experienced to avoid you to discover them with the wall in your head. But I always say that reading the diet the book of diet do not reduce your weight. If that was the case, there were no obese people all over the world, because there are so many millions of books of diet that has been written and has been read that there was no obese. No, the problem is to the sacrifice. The problem is to make exercise every day, to control your mouth and not eat more than what you need. A permanent effort is what reduces your weight, not the reading of the book. And therefore, maybe I have something else to do, but I don't know if there are some questions that I may present. But I would like one last example, anecdote of my father. And that will take 1 minute. This is the true anecdote. When my father was 86, there was a peculiar, not good situation economically in the Dominican Republic. And I told him one day, Father, the situation in the Dominican Republic is quite worse because there are many unemployment. Something that is happening now in many parts of the world, including the Dominican Republic. It's a lot of unemployment. And that is a problem, a social problem. And he said, well, that is true, but he was the old-fashioned style in his mind. And he said, but many people do not want to work also. And he said, well, Father, if there are 20,000 people looking for work and only 10 possibilities of having work, it is mathematical true that 10,000 people will have no work. And he said, well, that may be mathematical, but I would never will be, even at 86 years old, one of the unemployment people. I say, why? And he said, very simple. I will go to some business that I know that I can use my knowledge and my expertise, and I will ask for a work. The manager has only 2 answers. Yes, we need another employee, how much you will collect per month or your salary, and then I am no longer unemployed. And the other answer will be, no, we don't need anybody else, and then I will reply, I am ready to work for you 1 month free. I am not suggesting to you that, but he says, I will work 1 month free, and after a month I will ask you again if you need me to continue working or I have to go without receiving 1 cent to my home. And he added, after 1 month, my son, I will have a pity, because if the manager really does not need another employee, he will have to cancel one to leave me inside. Because he will not allow a person working like I work, with interest I work, to be going home, and he will try to keep me anyway, and I will no longer be an unemployed person. Thank you very much.
We have time for 1 question. So if someone wants to make a question, can stand up, please, so that we can take the microphone to you.
Thank you. Señor Corripio. Bueno, muchas gracias por estar aquí. Mi nombre es Harold Mateo. Me gradué de la maestría de aquí de MBA el año pasado. Just want to say You know, many of us are looking to go back to our countries. I'm from the Dominican Republic. I'm looking to go back and someday follow the great footsteps that you have, the pathway you have led for us. I would like to know, how have you dealt with the political climate in the Dominican Republic, and what do you recommend for young people that are here and want to go back to their countries and make a difference? ¿Me pudo entender?
What I recommend to do for young people is going to back to Dominican Republic or be here, no?
Sí, pero lidiando con la situación política actual, por ejemplo, en el caso de República Dominicana.
Sí. Well, the Dominican Republic is a good place to work and to invest, and is crowded of friendly people. And unemployment there in Dominican Republic is not as aggressive as is in this country, because the society helps more the unemployed people probably than in other places that each one has to find his way by himself alone. But right now I recommend to make options and to decide what is more convenient, because every particular case is different. If you have a sure thing here or in Dominican Republic that is satisfactory for somebody, he should not risk that for something that is not sure. And the Dominican Republic is not so good for people who have the opportunity of working here or living here with a good job. But if you don't have a good job here, you can find good jobs in Dominican Republic if you are properly prepared. But it's such a personal decision that each case may be analyzed separately.
So we have time for one more question here.
Mr. Corripio, thank you very much for your speech. I would like to hear from your experience. How do you see what's next for Latin America this decade, on this decade?
¿Cómo usted ve que va a estar Latinoamérica?
¿En español?
Oh yes, no, okay. I think that Latin America, once in a meeting with the American ambassador in Dominican Republic and many newspapers, etc., some of them complained that the United States or Canada do not protect enough the Latin countries. And that was not enough, because the Latin countries were poorer. But I said, and I think, that we cannot complain of others of what we should do. And I mentioned that time the way of competing with the United States, with Canada, and other developed countries of Dominican Republic or Latin countries is to do the same good things that they made in the past, because we have hundreds of years after independence without doing the things that have been proved to be good in the developed countries. And we are trying always to blame somebody else or some other country of our own things that we have to do by ourselves. And there is enough good people in Latin America, and it is proved now, and the opportunities now that commodities and raw materials are at a high price, not to spend unnecessarily that money and create, as has been done in Chile, for example, with reserve of the prices of the copper for bad times. That is what I recommend to the Latin countries, to work as well as have done the citizens of other countries with have success, and not depend so much of the charity of the governments, but of the efforts of each one. It happens that many people in Dominican Republic or Latin countries have one method of conduct in their country and come here to the States, and they change immediately, and they start working, and they wake up early at 5 in the morning, and they start doing what they have to do in their own countries. And that means that that is the key of the success of those countries, and not to spend the time blaming others of what you can do.
Thank you very much. We are really pleased that you came to talk to us today.